Never gets old, right? Okay, so to all the young boys and girls out there, once upon a time there was this thing called Saturday morning cartoons. Believe it or not, but there was a time when TV stations would run these absurdly stacked lineups of incredible cartoons from morning till noon. I'm talking about Transformers, Static Shock, Spider-Man, Dragon Ball Z, and even Batman the Animated Series. What a time to be alive. I mean, the diversity, the quality, share hours. When it came to animation here in the States, I'd argue that there was no better time to be a kid than the 1990s. Which brings me to the cream of the crop, X-Men the Animated Series. Based off the incredible art of Jim Lee and spanning an impressive run from 92 to 97 on Fox Kids, this was a show that had everything running for it. It was practically perfect. The writing was great, the women were strong, the relationships were complex, and most importantly, Cyclops wasn't a buster.
Energy blast, huh? Here's one from a pro.
Not only did it give us entertainingly detailed takes on a ton of X-Men, but it also spawned a bunch of awesome toys, video games, and yes, a gang of superhero movies. So let's get into it. Here are my 3 reasons why X-Men the Animated Series was the greatest. I got one honorable mention to get out of the way first. God bless Ron Wasserman, the man who scored many a childhood with theme songs for X-Men, as well as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Number 3, bringing the real. Racism, religious persecution, depression. These are just some of the real-world issues tackled over the show's 5-year run. X-Men resonated with kids on a different level because it focused on topics that hit close to home. The whole show was one big exhale for whoever felt like an outcast. Every boy or girl watching could relate to the isolation that came with being different. It also highlighted how being different, a mutant in this case, could be a gift as well as a curse. While Wolverine was the badass we all wanted to be, a character like Nightcrawler represented a more tragic take on things. I mean, who could forget when Beast shed tears after finding true love for the first time, post-mutation? And was there any other cartoon that handled the gravity of coming out to your family with as much attention as X-Men? Kudos to the showrunners, Eric and Julia Lewald, for not buckling to the pressure from Fox to pacify their mature brand of storytelling. X-Men was also very big on the repercussions of hate, something that unfortunately remains relevant to this day. The despicable Graydon Creed, who has some of the most aggressive voice acting I've ever heard in my life, embodied society's fear of the unknown to a T. Professor X and Magneto both represented the duality that came with being the unknown. More on that later. Number 2, character work. On the surface, the voice acting in X-Men was peak 90s. Just take a listen.
Your puny weapons can never prevail against Apocalypse. Why don't we find out?
Hey, I'm not calling it the best, just really effective and kind of funny. I mean, even Cable and Bishop had their own theme songs. Everything from Wolverine's Bubs to Gambit's Southern swag were all meant to serve one specific purpose: establishing character. Who could forget Professor X's loud brain freezes and Cyclops' constant jeans? Are there any of you out there to close your eyes and listen to some of this show's voice work? I'd be shocked if you couldn't guess who most of the characters were. In addition to being memorable, the X-Men were great because they weren't perfect. Wolverine frequently struggled with memory loss. Storm battled claustrophobia. Rogue had to deal with the reality of not being able to touch another human being for the rest of her life. These inner demons made our heroes more relatable, and in effect, the show a lot more watchable. The range of dynamic characters here are unmatched as far as animation goes. I mean, Cyclops and Jean gave you the romance, Jubilee was your naive newcomer, Mr. Sinister came with the body horror, Cable was your jaded time traveler, and Morph was the creep. Everyone's personality was distinctive as well as entertaining. I mentioned Professor X and Magneto earlier, and I would argue that you don't get Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen's great takes in the X-Men movies without the blueprint set in this very series. These men were best friends, and yet their conflict over mutant-human relations was so strong it drew comparisons to something as real and serious as a relationship between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King during the Civil Rights Movement. If anything personifies the level of complexity in this show, it's these two characters. Number 1, the major story arcs. The Phoenix and Dark Phoenix sagas. Beyond Good and Evil. I mean, the show was loaded with incredible serialized arcs that left kids like me itching for the next episode. Mind you, this storytelling was far from the norm at the time, especially for Saturday mornings. Believe it or not, but some arcs took as long as 5 episodes to complete. That was a month in real time, which probably felt like half a year to kids back then. Anyways, this was X-Men at its best, adapting a classic story from the comics to the small screen. These arcs served as an effective gateway between TV and comic books. It was, for me at least. You could almost taste the respect and admiration that the people behind the scenes had for these stories. I mean, the show did something with the Phoenix saga that millions of dollars and armies of producers couldn't do between 2 blockbuster movies. While a great watch in itself, the Days of Future Past saga was a dramatically dark take on a world and characters I thought I knew. Even when the show's creators made executive changes to the original story, like switching Kitty Pryde with Bishop for instance, they always managed to execute impressively. And the formula was as clear as day. Take your time, establish characters, establish stakes, make it fun. Considering the kind of success that Kevin Feige has brought to Marvel over the past decade, one could imagine that X-Men benefited from having true fans behind the wheel. So what do you think? Thanks for checking this video out. If you dug what you saw, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below to get notified whenever we drop any new content. We also have a new website up with my blog and other videos. You can check that out right over here. Most importantly, let me know your reasons why X-Men the Animated Series was the greatest in the comment section below. Until next time.